Welcome everyone, this is Piney Noodles and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Terry Adwin
Hi,
and Herindus.
Hey, everybody.
And today we have main thing that we need to speak about is Bull Roarer was opened this week for the first test of Update 24 and the new client.
64-bit client.
64-bit client.
Which everybody's been excited about. Well, not everybody probably, but some people were very excited about. Unfortunately, it's the biggest problem with 64-bit is it isn't currently supporting Lua, so it doesn't currently support plugins. So when I tested the 64-bit client, I was like, I can't do this, because I'm so used to Titan Bar being up at the top of the screen. I mean, that's like the one plugin I can't live without.
Yes. I know what you mean. It's like trying to get used, and for me it's buff bars is one of the other ones that I use.
See, I don't use buff bars. I tried it once and didn't like it, so I don't use it.
I don't use any plugins at all, so if I went in there, I'd be like, oh, cool.
Right. Yeah. Now, there is one feature of buff bars I don't like, but I always turn that off. But I do have the one which gives the icons in an area that I can more easily see and gives their names so that I can get to it, because I always miss the buff indicators whenever the little icons that they put under your portrait. So that's the main reason I use buff bars, is for that.
And there is a note in the release notes for the update that they are working on it. It's not supported yet, but it's something they're going to support, but it's not going to be ready for update 24. So
yeah.
Right. So that's going to be the biggest problem.
Which really makes me think that they're planning to release update 24 soonish, like by end of monthish, maybe.
Maybe so.
I thought that they were originally projecting out for June, but alright, if they get it to...
I mean, if they don't have time to get Lua in, because update 24 is, as far as I could tell, pretty much ready to go. I didn't do any quest testing, but I took a look at the landscape, and I watched Chromite Swiftpaw was streaming it. So, I mean, there's a lot done. So I don't know how much left they have to do other than playing with the 64-bit stuff. So if they're not going to work on the Lua support, I'm kind of really wondering what the heck else they're doing.
That is a good question. It depends on how much they think they have done on the Black Book, because...
well, that's true, because we don't see Black Book in there. But honestly, from all of the updates that I've seen on Bull Roar, like the going to preview content before it releases live, this is probably one of the most complete updates I've ever seen on a first build.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, there is one item, though, that is very much in a preliminary state that is definitely not ready for release, and that's the new Virtue system.
Yes, that's true. Which looks really interesting. I'm very curious to see how they implement it.
Yes, we'll have... Yeah, they'll still need some tweaks on this, but the idea there is that you select a virtue, and that virtue is going to be fed your virtue experience points for any future deeds that you complete. And you could have a virtue layout, a set of virtues selected to go with each of your builds. So
which isn't really something that people have like paid attention to, but it's interesting to kind of think about, because I mean you change your class traits, and who has time to switch around their virtue traits? But the fact that we would be able to tie a virtue build to a class trait build is really interesting to me, because I could see how some traits would be more applicable to certain class trait builds than others.
Yeah.
Probably not so much for champion, because I just set mine all the same, but
Right.
Like some of the other classes where you are switching focus from like a DPS to healing kind of thing. Um, that's the sort of, or like tank from tanky survivability to a DPS kind of thing. Yeah, so it actually is really interesting. But it's like that was the really not polished at all section of update 24. Like you can see kind of where they're going with it, but I mean we have a virtue in there that isn't even really defined yet.
But yeah, the virtue, a new virtue that is pretty much TBD, and there was at least one virtue which was being there, one of the ones that they were doing experiments with, so it was so completely messed up that they were not seriously expecting that to be the way it's going to go out. So yes, there's a lot of tweaking still to do on the virtue system, and hopefully that'll be ironed out in the next build, so we can start to really see it.
Question about the virtue system real quick. I don't know if this has been addressed anywhere or not. Would this system be kind of like, is this something that would start after it's released? Would this be available at level 1, or would this only be available when you get to that point in the game?
It would be available at level 1.
Okay.
Or, well, level 5, because you don't see any of that stuff until level 5.
Right, but it's not like the, what is it? The legendary
item imbuement system,
yes,
where you can't imbue until level 100. Yeah, it's not going to be like that. This is actually something that you'll be put into from the start. And I'm actually not sure how it's going to work at the beginning if you can only earn one virtue trait at a time. I would love to see being able to pick like your virtues that are equipped. Those are the virtues that you're also earning. As opposed to you have to pick one to raise at a time with each deed.
Well, yeah, the trouble is that you may have if you have several trees, because it could be that what you have picked as earning experience is not tied to which tree you're currently in, while the ones you have currently selected, it will be.
Well, no, it should be whatever you have traded is what you're earning.
Because that might not necessarily be the case, because you might be you might have something temporarily traded until you get a particular virtue up to snuff.
I don't think we're talking about the same thing, Pineleaf. I'm saying if you're running in a specific trait line and you have your virtue traits selected for that trait line, those should be the virtue traits that you're earning. If you want to earn a different virtue trait, all you have to do is equip a different virtue trait. So the virtue traits that you're earning points towards should be the virtue traits that you have equipped. So that at any given time you're earning points toward toward a variety of traits, first of all. Instead of just one. Because I know how the current system works is you can be working on multiple deeds at a time, so you could potentially finish a bunch of deeds all at once and get like 2 or 3 different virtues all at once. As opposed to earning points that you get them all funneled to the same virtue, which would also be fine, but it would be more interesting to kind of spread them around. Especially because they're going from like a pool of 19, 20 to 60. So there's more. And I know Terry has several traits at 19, and on Boror they're showing up as 45.
Yeah. Probably depends on how much XP you earn on. Anyway, we'll have to see what they plan on that matter.
Mm-hmm.
But the fullest on this thing is, okay, we talked about the 64-bit client, and we talked about virtue configuration.
Well, we talked about 64-bit client doing a thing. Did you actually test the 64-bit Pine?
Oh, yeah, I ran under 64-bit, yes.
Yeah, I did also. I bring it up because Chromite was streaming it, and there were people asking in his chat about various performance issues and stuff, and he was still experiencing lag. And he was explaining that yes, you may still see some lag and things like that, because the 64-bit client isn't an autofix for lag. It is, however, going to help improve the way your computer processes graphics so that you don't have the crashes in the highly populated areas like Minas Tirith and
Right.
Erebor and Mordor and Bree or Weathertop during Weatherstock, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he did test it with Minas Tirith, and I also went into Minas Tirith, and of course I've never really had a problem with Minas Tirith. But the fun thing for me is that on the 32-bit client that we have now, I have a fairly decent laptop. Like, I've got a good graphics card and a good processor and all of the things, and I should be able to run DX11 with no issues. And for whatever reason, on the 32-bit client, it doesn't want to run DX11. So I tend to run LOTRO and DX9. The 64-bit client, I was able to run DX11 and not have any issues whatsoever.
That's probably why you don't have issues in Minas Tirith. It's probably because since you're only in DX9, since I run DX11, that's probably why I have it, because there's more memory being used then. I did not think about going into Minas Tirith for some ridiculous reason. I wound up spending all my time in the Vales of Anduin, looking at all over the new stuff. So,
including the floating rock.
I missed the floating rock, unfortunately.
A mysterious floating rock, because Chromite tracked it down. He was trying to figure out what the heck it was floating over. It's floating over a village, and I don't think he got the name of the village, but it's a very visible floating rock. Lena Willowwood also posted some photos of it on the article that she did on her blog.
And I completely missed that little bit.
You need to look up more, Pineleaf.
Right? Well, I'm so low to the ground.
I know, Hobbit.
But yeah, so far it looks like it was running reasonably well, but of course, more testing would be needed, and I need to try that in Minas Tirith. And of course, if your lag is being caused by reasons other than the memory that you have available, then yes, it's not going to help with that. For the confirmation dialogues, they have added a confirmation dialogue to the vendor sell all button.
Did we really need that?
I don't know. It depends on how often people go around accidentally clicking sell all, I guess.
I mean, I get the confirmation. I get a pop-up anyway, usually because I'm going to the vendor to sell all when I have more than however many things you can buy back. So I usually get that dialogue anyway, so I guess I just didn't realize that we needed a confirmation to the sell all.
Oh, you mean this? Yeah, but yeah, that's right, because I thought there was
like when you
something like that.
Yeah, apparently I guess it's gonna kick in before you are over the limit. It's like 17 or something. It starts to kick in and say you're selling so many items you won't be able to buy them all back. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want them. Take them. Bye.
Okay. I didn't think about testing that, but because I had forgotten about that. Let's see. The Allegiance Tracker is now scalable. I would presume that if you're running on a 4X system or something like that, that could be useful.
Mm-hmm.
And fixed the scroll bar on the raid lock panel. Okay. Fellowship tradable gear no longer loses allow trade target information on logout. I would presume that is if you wound up
crashing.
Yeah, crashing or something like that, I presume is what that is.
I don't
know. I don't know whether this is something that was a problem because of people crashing or if people were abusing the system by logging out. And I'm not too sure which of those which of those potential situations it would have been done to. fixed a bug where the quest font size changes would revert back to the default when the quest update events were triggered.
Okay.
And fixed an issue where zooming with the mouse scroll wheel would stop working when interacting with a Lua plugins. Well, right now Lua plugins aren't working at all, so that sort of moved.
Well, I mean, they're still working for the 32-bit client. It's just the 64 it's not working with. So
okay,
presumably,
yes, you got a point there.
Presumably, these issues still need to be fixed so that when they get Lua working on the 64-bit, it will also work the same.
You've got a point there. Add Lua event triggering for effect removed and effect cleared for selected targets. Added binding to Lua for various actions definitions. And the quest grouping panel has been rearranged to have the quest selection at the very top. And the instance finder panel has been expanded with a new instance grouping section. Essentially, they overhauled the instance finding thing. They changed the...
It looks weird.
Instance finder thing, and then they got rid of the two special ones, the advanced and the simple forms, and they just have the custom section of the instance finder panel is all that's left now. But yes, it does look a bit weird since we're used to the old instance finder. And the player command LFP has been changed to LFU. Right, correspond to looking for quest grouping. All right, and fixed item socket replacement confirmation dialog just shows the correct order. And when bound, essences are slotted into equipped into the socket control panel. The equipment becomes similarly bound. Shift F no longer mapped to the instance finder. Okay. Screenshots will now be saved using a timestamp, browse and an incrementing number. So
cool. That's actually handy.
So that you know when you did the screenshots.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you don't have to sift through X number of screenshots either, trying to remember how many you took before you took the most recent one you're looking for. You can just automatically look for the one that's on today's date.
Yeah. And updated the Instance Finder tutorial and added a tutorial hint button with the Instance Finder panel. Up to 200 Epic Battle Promotion Points can now be obtained via Promotion Points plus an offer in the LOTRO store.
Wow. That means all of them. You can now buy all of your points and skip Epic Battles entirely. I don't know why anybody would do that, because you gotta do them for the Epic story.
Yeah, you have to do them for the Epic. Maybe they want all those... You see how many promotion points you have after doing them for the Epic story, and then you buy the rest, I guess.
Well, but I guess if somebody just wants to have all of their trait points without doing the story so that they can be more effective in raids and whatnot, that's a way to do it.
I suppose so. Albert Lowbanks is no longer invisible.
I didn't realize she was.
Yeah. Isn't she a burglar, though? Most items involved with quests for the Ironfold and Grey Mountains can now be used while mounted.
Oh, good!
Too bad we're about to leave the region. Yes. Unfriendly Eyes of Ostferode should now advance correctly for fellowships that carries the chest together. I didn't know they could carry the chest
You can carry the chest together. Well, one person in the fellowship carries the chest, and everybody else kind of follows behind.
Okay, because I guess when I was doing this recently, we all carried our own chests. Fixed the weapon swapping issue of the NPC involved in Prologue The Hideout. Is this something to do with Sarah Oakhart's staff or something, or does this have to do with the boss?
It's got to be one of the NPCs switches weapons. I haven't really paid that much attention to it because I try to get out of that instance as quickly as possible, so I don't really spend my time looking around. But this is probably along the lines of the infamous whichever one of Elrond's sons goes with you to that instance with Nona and his hair is brown, and then it was switching to blonde, and they fixed that a few updates ago. But I'm sure it's along the lines of that. Somebody noticed. Somebody had done it off. Somebody not only did it often enough, but stood in front of whatever NPC to notice that the weapon was swapping.
Oh well, I suppose.
So kudos to that. Kudos to that person for sticking it out. They have more patience than I do. I hate that instance.
And here, speaking of hated instances, they polished up the Battle Under the Trees session play.
Yay! I'm still never doing it again.
Lorian, additional directions added to the quest to improve the flow of the instance, thinned out the monster spawns, and moved them closer to cut down the travel time. Galadriel's animations have been adjusted in the first part of the instance, and Mirkwood archers now lead the way up the hill during the second part of the instance.
And if none of these changes had been necessary, as in if all of them had been part of the original instance, I wouldn't have had to do it 6 times. I'm never doing it again. Never doing it again. Ever.
Oh, and in another one related to hated instances, the pace of Frodo's burden has been greatly improved. I don't
mind that one.
Yeah, our ring bearer still discusses the same issues, but he doesn't take so long to get to the point.
I like that walk with Frodo. It's very relaxing. You just put him on follow and go get a cup of tea or something. Come back in 5 minutes. Oh, nope, he's still talking. I got time to get another snack.
I have a feeling that's the reason why they decided to shorten it.
That's actually how I handle most of the talking instances in game now, because I've done them all at least 2 times, or more. Like minimum of twice. Once I've gotten through an instance, minimum of twice, I don't feel like I have to sit there and watch it anymore. So I'll just put NPC on follow and go do whatever. The last time, and actually the last NPC, the last of my characters that I took through that infamous council meeting where they discussed Laerdan's fate and how it was horrible that he hid Amarthiel,
Normalist?
Thank you. Yeah, hid that from the council, and that instance, I swear, takes something like 20 minutes. I didn't time it, but I know that I'm like, okay, they're going to be talking for a while, so I switched over and I was doing something else, and I come back to the screen and I look, they're still talking. Okay. And I went over and did something else, and it's just talking. Like, you don't even have to click on an NPC to make it go faster or anything. It's you just sit there and listen to the elves talk. And they're jerks.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for my fast forward button. Like once you've completed a talkie instance on one of your characters, you should be able to skip it for every other character that goes through it.
There is that. Then we have if you've already completed all of his adventures, George at Sanson's farm might just have something new for those feeling a bit peckish.
Yes, there's a new chicken quest. It's called There and Back Again.
There and Back Again.
Yeah.
Now, does this mean then that you only get this quest if you've completed Crosser of the Roads?
Not only Crosser of Roads, you have to have done the other ones. The other ones past that.
Oh, I didn't realize that there were ones past that. That's just how much I know.
There's Crosser of Roads, and then there's like taking the chicken to Minas Tirith. That's actually a thing. Yeah, and if you've taken your chicken to Minas Tirith and gotten your Lord of the Wings title, because you have to take the chicken to Minas Tirith and then you have to fly off the prow, and you get the title Lord of the Wings. And I'm thinking that there's another one before the Minas Tirith ones. Anyway, if you've done all of that, then you can do the There and Back Again.
Now, I presume that means getting to Erebor?
Yeah.
Okay, which would not have been possible before this upcoming update.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But you can go through the port in the Misty Mountains, because it is actually a little shimmering portal between the Misties and the Vales of Anduin, is chickenable.
Is chickenable. Of course, you come out pretty close to a 120 zone, so you better have some friends that
Well,
are...
I mean, you're a level 1 chicken, so going into the Misties is still perilous.
Well, yes.
I mean, really, is when you're level 1, is there really that much of a difference between a level 40 mob and a level 120 mob? No, there's really not. Because either of them, if it spots you, is going to snack on you.
Point taken. Point taken there.
On the plus side, level 1 chicken doesn't have the aggro range of a level 40 hapless adventurer who happens to wander through that portal.
Yes, right. I do wonder, yes, if you are a hapless level 40 person, what will happen when you cross through there? You get all sorts of warning messages or what?
Isn't that what happened to Sans? Well, she was like level 60, right?
Yeah, she was level 6. Actually, she died pretty quickly, if I remember correctly.
Uh-huh.
I think she died before I got across.
I'm pretty sure. You were on the loading screen still, and she was dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yes, you'll find yourself with a very quick trip to the stone circle if you tried crossing there. And they're removing unintended on removal effect from Hunter Essence of Freedom. Whatever that meant.
No idea.
Renaming the Lake Town Outhouse to be more era appropriate to Lake Town Bog House.
You still don't want to go swimming in that lake.
Melee range skills now have a base range of 3.5 meters, up from 2.5 meters, and I think you're loving that one.
Yes.
And I suspect that Warrens won't mind. I don't know what the usual range was for on the Warren side, but I presume they'll benefit from that one also.
Does not affect Raging Blade, because Raging Blade has its own thing for calculating distance, but I can confirm that it definitely makes a difference in champion play. It was fun.
Right. For Bjornies, healing percentages for Vigilant Roar IA bonuses have been corrected. And on the Guardian, T5 Tenderized bonus has been corrected so that it is larger than T4.
Well, that's good.
That's good. And Fighter Shadow spec no longer incorrectly grants AoE Flash of Light with the base spec. Minstrel Mastery bonus from the Minstrel trait strength of the Hammer Hand has been significantly improved, and Bree, Mickledelving, Hobbiton, Dwaylen, Kellendim, and Thorns Hall all now have slow and swift travel routes to the nearest housing neighborhoods. Yay!
That's awesome. Now,
I'm
question.
super pumped.
Question. Do the housing neighborhoods have swift travel back?
Back! Oh!
Because there's no stable master in housing neighborhoods.
Right.
That's why all of my houses are in Thorns Hall, because it's around the corner from the housing neighborhood.
There is the...
Uh-huh.
I did not think about testing that because I had completely forgot about that little thing where maybe I didn't get that far in the patch notes. So, yes. And of course, that the first day of Bulwer was fine, but I believe after the first day of Bulwer is when the infamous DNS issue struck.
Oh, the login thing?
Yeah, the login thing.
I didn't have a problem with that.
Oh, you were lucky.
What happened?
Well, what happened is apparently every couple of years or so, the DNS files have to be updated, And this year when they did it, apparently there was a few updates ago, an update to the client on how it handles certain types of updates. I don't know the details on this. And what happened is that if you have an older client, it is not compatible with the new DNS numbers.
Oops.
And that means if you updated your client a couple of years ago and that you have been just living on updates to the client since you could do that in LOTRO, then that client no longer works. So they've been recommending that you download and reinstall from scratch the latest version of the client over at LOTRO.com. Now, of course, one of the clients affected by this is the Steam client.
Oh, maybe that's why I didn't have a problem with it, because I don't run it through Steam.
Yeah. Right. So I would say that if you don't run it under Steam and you've maybe upgraded your system recently or had to reinstall from scratch in the last few months, you probably didn't have much of a problem. But if you've been running under the same client for the last couple of years, then you probably had to reinstall. I wound up eventually having to reinstall, and in fact, I had to do it 3 times.
Ugh.
Because the first time I attempted to reinstall, it turned out that there's one point where after it does its preliminary load, it gives you this checkbox that says launch the game immediately when you hit finish.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently that was a big mistake to hit that, because
Oops.
when I did it that way, it does, loads everything, loads up there, gets ready to start, and bing, I'm sorry, you don't have permission to do this. But when on my third attempt where I turned that thing off, hit finish, and then manually started it after that, everything worked perfectly fine. And the exact same thing happened when I did the same thing for DDO. So therefore, if you are having trouble with it, but you didn't try unchecking that box upon the initial installation of the launcher, then try that one last thing, and maybe that will solve the problem. I don't know if it'll solve everything, but at least it solved my problem. And that means I finally got into the game this morning. All right.
Yeah, see, I don't run it through Steam, and then my laptop's only just a little over a year old, so my client's not that old either.
So, yes, you have a young client and you don't run through Steam, so you're all fine on that. And I take it then, Arendis, you either haven't been playing the last couple of days, or you have a relatively young client.
Well, my client, I think, is maybe 1 or 2 years old, and I play it through Steam, but I haven't had any issues yet, so maybe I just haven't gotten...
Oh, now, are you playing it? You're playing it through Steam, or are you using the
Yeah.
Steam client? That's 2 different things.
I don't know the answer to that one, but I've had access to it, so whichever one I'm using.
Yeah, because you could have Steam launch the non-Steam client if you set it up that way. In fact, that's what I did before I started using the Steam client.
Okay.
Actually, that's what I did before the Steam client existed.
I can't remember how I set it up, but I haven't had any issues so far.
Okay, you haven't had any. Oh, if you haven't had any issues so far, you're probably not going to have any trouble, because if you were going to have issues, you would have. Assuming that you've played since last Wednesday.
Yep.
Yeah, if you've been able to play since last Wednesday, you should be fine.
Sweet.
So that was a little bit of a fiasco that we had this week, and hopefully things will get settled. And that's that little bit of news. Then let's head into our beacon. Issue 109, where they are setting off fireworks at the party tree.
Mm-hmm.
And the X Creators contest is back for fun and LOTRO points. click on the link to find out more about D & Company's Dimilu's housing contest. And Gleaming Thread has posted a few new outfits for their blog. Laurelland has a new role place spot you could learn more about the Crow's Claw Inn. And Chickening Around has posted a new comic, The Fireworks Announcer in Bree.
This made me laugh so hard.
Chickening Around.
I know, I love their username.
I love the Chickening Around comic. I actually follow it, so I had seen the update before it hit the beacon, and I was really glad it was on the beacon, so I didn't have to select it as a pick. Otherwise, it would have been the pick of the week, because it was pretty great.
For the Kin Hall, Taters is an old kin on Evernight, recently reformed to focus on current and upcoming T3 and PvP content. They are looking for a few experienced and knowledgeable players to join their small kinship. They use a very offensive style of play for raids, so expect all players to min-max their builds in order to keep the margin of error small. This sounds like a kin that says, if you're Pine Leaf, you don't want to be in this kin. The average age of this kin is a little higher than normal, so people with real-life commitments will be accommodated as best as we can. When not raiding, we love small group action in moors or work on alts so that they will always be someone around to help with the basics. At the moment, we do not have a set raid days, but we'll probably run 3 times a week from Sunday to Friday at 7:30 GMT. That would be right now. That's 3:30. That's 3:30 server time. They're on Evernight, so I guess GMT is more appropriate there.
Yeah.
Once finished with this recruitment drive, we will set times and days. Feel free to pop and tell or mail to Floretta, Melithwin, Karach, or Valerian, Nakewa, Nessa, Fink for more information. Whew. So let's go into the weekly comment. What is your most favorite anniversary activity?
I actually still really love the scavenger hunt, even though I'm done with it and I'm not planning to do it on any of my alts. Just because I really liked the idea of it, and it was fun to do it with other people, so that on the annoying bits, we could all complain about it together. But the payoff this year was finding out who was behind the scavenger hunt, and that was totally worth it.
Yeah.
And if you haven't done it, you really should.
Yeah. And very lore appropriate, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would have to say the scavenger hunt also. Arendis?
Probably the scavenger hunt and sometimes watching fireworks.
Watching fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my favorite anniversary activity is opening up my New Year box.
Yeah.
The very first time. What did I get this year?
Or sometimes seeing all the new mounts and cosmetics that have been released. That's fun.
Let's get into the fan site news. We had a shout out for LOTRO Players 303, LOTRO Hoarders. And you watch Easy Lost with McVegan Pants with 12th anniversary on Honor. You'd watch Ogre's Epic Adventures, Drew to the Wings with Druid's Fire, Epic Shenanigans with Tesla the Panda, Adventures After Dark with Big Ed Mustafa, LOTRO, the Balville edition Lore and Laughter with Middle-earth Maiden. The Road Goes Ever On with Gravity 42. And Winnie's Adventures in Middle-earth. And our screenshot of the week looks like it's from Elbrier from Belegier sent us this week's screenshot of the week, and it looks like it's from the Hobbit housing neighborhood.
Yeah.
I kind of want to use this as a screen background. It's really cool.
What's its aspect ratio, I wonder?
I don't know, but it's just so amazing. It almost doesn't matter.
Yes. All right, I guess you got a point there. And with that concludes our beacon for this week. So let's head into our store sales. Terry, what's for sale this week?
It's a Terry sale. Woo! 25% off now through May 9th. Select shared wardrobe. Select cosmetic outfit slots, although still not slot number 8. Mounted combat trait specs and cosmetic slots, and select cosmetics. And as always, make sure that you that if it says store exclusive, that it really is store exclusive and can't be found somewhere in game before you spend your points. And the weekly coupon gets you a Sea Blue die ×1 with coupon code SEABLUE now through May 9th.
LOTRO Players News is brought to us this week by Warbands Are Us.
I'll explain that later.
Yeah, all right. Let's then head into the site news where we have installment number 6 of Where in Middle-earth is Emeraldina. And she must have been wanting to give us a break this week.
Yeah, this is kind of an easy one. Also, I was right about last week. Last week was what you actually see in the screenshot is Amon Hen, but the shot is taken from like the next hillside over, which is an orc camp.
Oh,
so
right.
So it's fun getting there if you're like underleveled, or it's actually fun getting there if you're overleveled because nothing attacks you, or you can just one shot it, or just look at it funny and it falls over dead.
Oh, fortunately, Emeraldina is around level 110 right now, I believe.
Yeah, so I'm sure she just strolled on through those orcs and laughed at them. And probably killed them on her way out.
Well, that's also a possibility. But I suspect that she didn't have to worry about so many orcs for this week. And we'll discuss where that is when we have next week's show. Therefore, let's head into our new player question. And what's the question this week?
The question is, how do cosmetic dyes work?
On clothing. That's how they work.
Oh, thank you. That clears up so much. I just feel so enlightened right now.
Okay, so there's 2 ways that you can use the cosmetic dye. You can dye the article of clothing itself, or you can dye the copy of it in the wardrobe. If you dye the copy of it itself, like if you dye the physical art item and you want to change its color later, you have to apply that dye to it again. And then if you want to change it back, you have to continuously use dye if you're planning on changing the color of an object multiple times. Like say
wrong way.
Like say gloves or a hat or something that you might want to use with different outfits in different colors. So generally that's when you use the wardrobe, because when you apply the dye color to an object in the wardrobe, it basically is just applying that to a copy. And then you select the item in the wardrobe, and then there's a little drop down of which colors are available, and you select the color that you want, and then you put that item on your cosmetic outfit, and you're good to go.
Okay, nice. So it's better, well, not better, but it's...
So rule of thumb is if it's something that you're only planning to use on one character one time, go ahead and dye the item. If it's something that you might want to use on a different character later under a different color, add it to the wardrobe and dye it there.
Okay.
All right.
hats, boots,
Is that
gloves,
answer your
cloaks. It is also worth noting that there are actually cosmetic pieces in the game that have unique colors when you first get them. The Wakefeld cloak is one of these. I think it's actually a store item, but it used to drop from loot boxes because that's how I got it originally, and discovered that the particular shade of blue that it comes as the default color cannot be duplicated with dye. So somebody borrowed it and dyed it and washed it and washed all the color out of it, and I was very sad.
Oh no.
Because we didn't realize that that had been a thing.
All right. Then let's head into our week in LOTRO. And Arendis, what were you up to?
This week, Landreville Arendis got to level 62 and is about to start Volume 2, Book 9 forward. So helping the elves and running around has been, surprisingly more fun than expected so far, considering all of the hate that a lot of the elves seem to get. But I get turned around a little more frequently than I'd like to admit so far. So far it's so good. So that was pretty much my week. Terry, what did you do?
I actually accomplished quite a lot this week. Most notably, Landreville Terry Adwin finally finished out her Mordor Lost Lore books, and I got the bookcase! This was actually inspired by the fact that with Update 24, we are getting a second bookcase for the second set of Lost Lore books, so the ones for Northern Mirkwood, and the Grey Mountains and Iron Hills, etc., plus the 2 books that are coming in Update 24, all of those will be gathered in the bookcase. So, I finally don't have all of those books cluttering up my house. I just have the single bookcase, which is really, really, really cool. I hadn't realized exactly how cool it was because you can't preview the housing item unless you go to somebody else's house who has it. So yeah, that was pretty great. And I also did a little bit of questing on Sarissa and finished up in Beacon Watch. So she's headed back to Aldburg. I think she's level 94, so she's really close to getting her little turtle stone put back in her pocket. And my Laurel and Terry Adwin. I think I've mentioned how much I've been playing over on Laurelin. I think I started playing over there consistently, 2-3 months ago? And I was level 40 something when I started. Yeah, I hit level 80. Actually, she's currently level 82. And in Wildemore, because I got to level 78 and all the mobs for everything was red, and decided I should maybe stick around in Snowbourne and Garsfeld and then Snowbourne and do some of that Crofts questing to level up a little bit. And I actually ran a couple of skirmishes to assist with that process. And because I didn't want to start Wildemore at level 80, because 5 levels under the mobs is really painful on a non-tactical damage character. So got to level 81 and I was like, alright, let's go to Wildemore. So I did, and discovered that I actually was reading tooltips as I was trading points into my mount traits, and realized that because I normally run my champion in Red Dawn stance, which is the red stance, which, red line is damage, you do everything in damage. But I was reading tooltips as I was going through the skills, the stuff in yellow, because I'm actually trading under yellow in Warsteed stuff. And apparently, there are several skills that if you score a critical hit with them on the mount, will dismount your target. Which, as it turns out, makes mounted combat a whole lot easier because it becomes not mounted combat anymore. If you take their enemy off their horse and you can stand toe-to-toe and fight them, it goes so much faster! So, yeah, I started running everything in Riddermark, and that progressed a lot more smoothly. Especially because there are several quests in Wildemore that specifically say that you have to target mounted things. And targeting mounted things has never been my forte. By the way, speaking of the Warbands Are Us from earlier, I had forgotten how much fun it was to get stalked by warbands. Oh, right. No, I didn't forget. It's not fun to get stalked by warbands. And that happened in multiple locations in the Sutcrofts. And the Sutcrofts ones are really nasty because it's a fellowship one and a raid one. and they would not go away. They were like, cause I would move. I'd be like, oh, I'm in worst warband territory. I gotta get out of here. And I would move. And like 5 minutes later, oh, you're warband, cause I declined the quest, so you gotta wait 5 minutes for the quest to come back up. Oh, this warband is here. Do you want to go get? No, I still don't want to go after it. Thank you. The level 85 warband, my level 81 champion, does not want to go fight a raid version of the warband. No, go away. Yeah, so I really felt like I was getting, and then in Wildemore, was getting stalked by a couple of warbands too. One of them I actually, when she hit level 82, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go fight it. Because I read the description of the warband, and it's a warg and some puppies. And it's a solo one. It was the first solo one I'd run across. I was like, alright, I can take it. And I actually took out the 2 ads on the war steed, and then I dismounted and just punched the other warg in the nose a couple of times until it fell over. So, yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. I expect to be finished with Wildemore, because I'm doing side quests in Wildemore in addition to the epic story, but I have a lot of focus going on right now because of other things that are going on. So I'm very focused in getting through Wildemore, so I expect to you'll probably hear that I'm done with Wildemore next week, and I'm in, I got kicked out of Edoras. That was like a highlight. Except I kind of glossed over it. I got to Edoras, and I got kicked out of Edoras. I'm still trying to figure out where Laura Lanteri is from, because I know she's from somewhere in Rohan. I just haven't gotten to that spot in Rohan yet, because nothing's really felt like home for her yet. So yeah, by next week, I totally expect to be telling you guys that I've made it to Western Rohan. Pineleaf, how was your week?
All right, I will begin with Honor, where I was questing in the Great Delving. Did all those quests at the Threshold and at Dolven View and all that fun stuff. Then on Friday Night Fights, I didn't have a working client at the time since I was doing one of my download attempts at the time. So I was just listening in and giving general advice since they were running a couple of skirmishes. Backseat driving, shall you say.
You were backseat skirmishing?
Backseat skirmishing, right. But outside of that, for me, LOTRO just ran out of steam, shall we say?
Oh, funny.
So I couldn't do anything else because, I couldn't get the client operating, and not much else to be done since all the little highlight things that I normally do.
Having withdrawals from not being able to log into LOTRO?
Oh, that's right. I did forget about. We were on earlier today. I was with Sans and Emeraldina, and we were trying to help Emeraldina get through the epic storyline further along to get to Minas Tirith, so that she could be with join girls, and apparently girls might be joining Corey Olsen during his.
That is the rumor.
Like yeah, so she's hoping to.
I don't know that we've actually made a final decision on that, but that is the rumor. Yes.
Right. So she was preparing just in case that rumor is true. So she got as far as we reached Minas Tirith, and she was doing she had the picnic with Pippin, and just finished that chapter that includes the picnic in it.
I love that moment. I loved the picnic. That was like the best thing ever.
Yes.
But Pippin is one of my favorite characters.
Well, that does help, yes. Then let's into the news beyond LOTRO, and for the wallpaper gallery this week by Darren Loremaster, we have a full gallery for the wallpapers, since we've had the 6 break-a-day wallpapers, and now they're all together in all 6 of them all in one article, so that if you wish to have each of them and use one of them as your wallpaper, then that's available. And what size are these things? No idea. And that's it for that. If you would like to help donate, we currently have 20 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious raid of players and help support LOTRO players, simply go to the donations page where you can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. There you'll find rewards, including a mention on the podcast your choice, or even be guest with us for an episode of LOTRO Players News. We did not receive any emails this week, but if you'd like to send us one, you can send it to podcast@LOTROplayers.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Players Alliance @PlayersAlliance, LOTRO Players @LOTROPlayers, Arendis @Arendis, Piney @PineyNeedles, Sandwinda @Sandwinda, and Terry Adwin @TerryAdwin. The Players Alliance has 2 shows. On Thursdays at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have DDO Players News, and on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we have LOTRO Players News. You can join us for our live shows at LOTROplayers.com/live. And that is all for tonight, and this is Piney Mules reminding you to skirmish responsibly.